He caught me lying through my teeth, and somehow he still thought it meant I loved him. Funny thing is, if you tell someone often enough that you care, even as part of a pitch, they might start believing it, and worse, so might you. It was late spring in New Jersey, the kind of evening when the air smells like cut grass and the sky hangs heavy with the promise of rain. I was standing in front of his house, holding a stupid sales script in my hands, my pulse racing like I was about to rob a bank. I had never wanted to be here, but rent was due and bills didn't care if you hated cold calling strangers. His name was Alex Carter, 24, ex-college football player turned mechanic, broad-shouldered with a smile that could melt asphalt. And me? I was Ethan Moore, 22, broke, pretending I belonged to a company that barely trained us to talk like humans. The job was simple. Sell home security systems by reading from a laminated script, no matter how ridiculous it sounded. The problem was that the script wasn't just words, it was intimate. The lines were written to fake a connection, to sound like we cared about their fears, their safety, even their loneliness. So when I looked into Alex's eyes and read, "You matter more to me than you realize. I want you safe, always," it didn't sound like marketing, it sounded like confession. He froze. His brows pulled together, like he was trying to solve a puzzle no one had prepared him for. Then he laughed, soft and a little broken, and said, "So you've been hiding it all this time?" I wanted to correct him. I wanted to laugh it off, to shove the script in his face and show him it was all fake. But my throat closed, because a piece of me wanted it to be real. From that night on, everything spun out of control. Alex started seeking me out, walking me to the bus stop after work, showing up at the cafe where I sometimes hid between shifts, texting me jokes I didn't remember giving him my number for. He didn't ask directly, but I could see it in the way he looked at me. He thought we were a secret, a love written between the lines of a sales pitch. And the world we lived in didn't make that easy. This was small-town America. Neighbors whispered if you lingered too long at someone's door. His buddies at the shop threw around words that cut deeper than steel. I knew what it would mean for him to admit what he thought we had, what he thought I was hiding for us. The truth gnawed at me. I wasn't his secret boyfriend. I was just a broke kid trying to sell alarms. But each time he looked at me with those earnest eyes, something inside me cracked. Because what if we weren't faking it? The first time he touched my hand, it wasn't fireworks. It was worse. It was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet where you hear your own heartbeat echoing, where everything slows down and your body betrays you by wanting something you swore you couldn't afford to want. We were sitting in his garage, oil stains on the floor, a half-repaired motorcycle between us. He leaned closer, his fingers brushing mine as he passed me a wrench I didn't even know how to hold. His hand lingered, just enough to make me swallow hard. "You don't have to hide," he whispered, his voice so low it sounded like a prayer. I wanted to scream that I wasn't hiding anything, that it was all one big misunderstanding. But the words turned to ash in my throat. Because the more time I spent with him, the less it felt like a lie. But lies have a way of rotting. One night, his coworker made a crude joke at the bar. Something about Alex having a secret girlfriend. I watched Alex's jaw tighten, his knuckles white around his beer bottle. Then, slowly, his gaze flicked to me, across the room, where I sat alone pretending I didn't exist. My chest burned. He was defending something that wasn't even real. And when his friends laughed and prodded, he said it. Clear, sharp, like it was the most natural truth in the world. "He's the one." The bar went silent. My body went rigid. My cover was shattered. That night, I walked home in the rain, my script ruined, my job gone, and my heart tearing itself apart. Because the only thing worse than lying to Alex was realizing I no longer wanted it to be a lie. The truth came crashing down 2 days later. Alex found the script in my backpack. The lines highlighted in yellow, the notes scribbled in margins. Evidence of every false promise I'd ever fed him. He stood there, holding the papers in his grease-stained hands, his face unreadable. So that's all I was? Target. A sale. His voice was calm, but his eyes were fire. "No. Alex, please, it wasn't like that." "Then tell me what it was." I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Because how do you tell someone that somewhere between the lies, you started telling the truth? That night I thought it was over. But the thing about love, real love, is that it grows in the cracks. Even in betrayal. Even in silence. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that some secrets are worth fighting for, especially the ones you never meant to keep. Alex didn't speak to me for a week. A week of silence heavy enough to crush bone. I saw him once across town, walking out of the grocery store with his hands shoved deep into his jacket pockets. He didn't look at me, didn't even flinch when I whispered his name like it might summon him back. I wanted to give up. God knows it would have been easier to pack my bags, leave the job, leave the town, and pretend none of it happened. But something about him had rooted itself inside me. A stubborn ache that refused to let go. So I stayed. One evening, I found myself outside his garage again. The metal door was half open, spilling out the smell of oil and faint music from a busted radio. He was there, hunched over the same motorcycle we'd sat beside weeks ago. His face was pale in the lamplight, his hands moving with practiced rhythm. "I'm not here to sell anything," I said quietly. He didn't look up. "Good, because I'm not buying." I swallowed, stepping closer. "Alex, I lied, yeah, but not about everything." He laughed bitterly, tossing a rag onto the floor. "That's the oldest line in the book." "No," I said louder now, my voice shaking. "It started as a job, but then it wasn't. Every time I read those stupid lines, I felt like they were mine. Like I was saying what I wanted to say but didn't have the courage to." That made him stop. He finally looked at me, his eyes sharp, guarded, but not cold. "You expect me to believe that?" "I expect you to believe I'm a coward," I said. "But I also expect you to believe I'm done running from this. From you." Silence stretched. The only sound was the ticking of cooling metal and the rain beginning outside. Then, quietly, Alex said, "You hurt me." I nodded, my chest tight. "I know. And if you never forgive me, I'll still be glad I met you." He blinked, stunned by the softness in my tone. And for the first time in days, I saw his mask slip. The days after that were uncertain. We circled each other like two planets caught in opposite orbits, sometimes colliding, sometimes drifting apart. But every time I thought he'd leave for good, something tethered him back. It wasn't grand gestures, it was small things. A coffee left on my doorstep. A text that just said, "Eat something." His way of showing he hadn't completely given up, even if he wanted to. And maybe that was enough to start again. The town, though, wasn't as forgiving. Rumors spread fast after that night at the bar. People stared longer. Some whispered cruel things when they thought we couldn't hear. Alex's co-workers started pulling away, calling him less for drinks, avoiding eye contact at work. I hated it. Hated that my lies had dragged him into a storm he didn't deserve. One afternoon, I told him maybe he'd be better off letting me go. That maybe love, if that's what this was, wasn't strong enough to survive the weight of everyone else's judgment. He surprised me by laughing. "Ethan," he said, his voice steady, "I've been tackled by men twice my size, played through broken ribs, and spent nights freezing in the back of a busted truck. You think some gossip is gonna scare me off?" The fierceness in his eyes made my throat tighten. For the first time, I let myself believe in us. The turning point came on a Sunday morning. The church bells were ringing in town, families spilling onto the streets. Alex showed up at my apartment, his hair messy, his eyes determined. "I'm done hiding," he said. Before I could ask what he meant, he took my hand right there on the front steps, in full view of Mrs. Peterson across the street with her disapproving glare. My pulse roared in my ears. "Alex, let them see," he interrupted. His fingers tightened around mine. "If I'm gonna be judged, I want it to be for something real. For someone real." The world tilted. All I could do was nod, tears blurring my vision. And just like that, the secret wasn't a secret anymore. It wasn't easy after that. There were arguments, slammed doors, nights when we doubted if love could survive the weight of everything stacked against it. But there were also mornings when I woke up to the sound of his laughter, warm and unguarded, filling the room like sunlight. We learned to fight not against each other, but for each other. To take the whispers and turn them into fuel. To hold hands a little tighter when the world tried to pry them apart. And slowly, the town stopped caring. Or maybe we just stopped caring about the town. Months later, on a warm July evening, we stood together at the edge of the lake just outside of town. The water shimmered with the last light of day, fireflies dancing in the tall grass. I used to think love was something that happened to other people. I admitted, leaning against him. Something I wasn't built for. He kissed the side of my head. And now, I whispered, I think it was just waiting for you. His arm tightened around me. The silence wasn't heavy, Anna Maria, it was peaceful. Full. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid. Because what started as a lie had somehow grown into the truest thing I'd ever known. Love had tricked us both into confessing, him into believing. But in the end, maybe that's how all great loves begin. A misunderstanding, a risk, a leap into the unknown. And as the stars blinked awake over the lake, I realized I didn't regret a single word of that stupid sales script. Because without it, I never would have found him. Never would have found us. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.